Happy long weekend. This is your video lesson on inverses, really quick. Most of it's going to be a review for most. Our learning goals: determine the equation of inverse and if it is a function or not. So if you want to copy this down, I'd pause it. Basically, again as a review, finding the inverse is just a reflection about the line y equals x. Basically, this means your mirror point is a 45-degree line, and your function notation for an inverse has that right there going on. So f to the negative 1 of x. From now on, that is your function inverse notation. Basically, all that happens, the x and the y coordinates just switch. Likewise, the domain and range switch. And not all inverses are necessarily functions, even if the parent function is. Our first example, algebraically find the inverse and determine if it is a function or not. To do this, change f of x to y. I don't care too much about form, so for this first one I'll show you all the steps in the form, but for the test I really don't care what you do. And then we want to switch x and y. So this is going to become x equals 3y squared plus 2. And then from there you solve for y. So x minus 2 equals 3y squared. Divide everything by 3. We're left with x minus 2 over 3 equals y squared. And then how do you get rid of a square? You square root both sides. And do not forget that when you square root something, it is plus or minus. So we're left with plus or minus the root of x minus 2 over 3 equals y. And then our last kind of form step here, f inverse of x equals plus or minus the root x minus 2 over 3. Now, to determine if that is a function, first of all, the original function, 3x squared plus 2, that essentially is a quadratic function, makes a parabola, opens up, definitely going to be a function. So this is going to basically look something like that, function. The inverse, it's the root function, which we know kind of looks like this. Because it's plus or minus, that means it's going to be that one plus the opposite, so the one that goes down like that. That is not going to be a function. So not a function. If you look at our original one, remember you're reflecting this about 45 degrees with a 45-degree line. So that's my 45-degree line. This is going to basically reflect and look like that through that line. Part B, so change g of x to y. 9x minus 7 over 2. Switch x and y. X equals 9y minus 7 over 2. Go through some steps, cross multiply. 2x equals 9y minus 7. 2x plus 7 equals 9y. Divide both sides by 9. And we have f inverse of x equals 2x plus 7 over 9. These ones often confuse people. The original function, the g of x function, it looks way more complicated than it actually is. I could rewrite that to look like 9 over 2x minus 7 over 2, and that looks just like a linear function. That's going back to grade 9, y equals mx plus p, so that definitely is something that does that. That's a function. Likewise, down here, I could rewrite that as 2x over 9 plus 7 over 9. Again, that's y equals mx plus b. Looks like that. Function. Part C and part D. Change that to y. 7x minus 2 over x. Switch your x and y's. cross multiply, xy equals 7y minus 2. Put your y's together. Common factor out of y. Divide both sides by x minus 7. You're left with f inverse of x equals negative 2 over x minus 7. So, our first function, rational, it is a function. This one basically looks like the 1 over x function, but it's got some transformations happening to it. It's still going to be a function. It will pass the vertical line test. And part D, y equals x minus 5, switch x and y. Like before, what undoes a squared is square root. Converse also applies. So square both sides to get rid of the square root. And then x squared plus 5 equals y. F inverse of x equals x squared plus 5. Our original function, root function, shift to the right 5, looks like that. That's a function. This is going to end up being a parabola, shifted up 5. Definitely a function. Example number 2, if f of x equals this, find f inverse of 2. So y equals 3x plus 9. Because I'm asking you for the f inverse of 2, it means you got to find the inverse, switch x and y. Solve for y, x minus 9 equals 3y. 3. X over 3 minus 3 equals y. Therefore, f inverse of x equals x over 3 minus 3. And then last step, find f inverse of 2. Put 2 in for x. 2/3. Oops, I should say minus 3. So 2/3 minus 3. You can enter that into your calculator. Find a common denominator. It's up to you. Let's do it. Let's do it the show-off way. Let's find a common denominator. So that'd be negative 9 over 3, which would give you negative 7 over 3 as your final answer. And that's it. So very quick, simple, hopefully mostly review lesson for you guys. On Tuesday, absolute value. Wednesday, complex numbers. Thursday, I'm at a student council retreat, which is going to be a review day. And then your test is on Friday, first test of the year. Remember, if you haven't, so that's just Nick. Shout out to Nick here. Forms signed back as soon as possible. Your CE work or homework for the weekend for this lesson, page 43, those questions. And then I assigned you guys the review questions on Friday during class, so you're welcome to continue to work on those as well. Have a great weekend. See you Tuesday.